Hey guys, it's Doc, and today I'm going to walk you through the Monster Hog. This is sort of a video owner's manual because it's a lot easier to show you what's going to happen with this thing, how you're going to put it together than it is to draw something up or to have pictures or a pamphlet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through this unit step by step, show you how it's assembled, show you a few tips about running it as well, but this is a real easy way to actually do this. So I'm going to zoom in and show you what it looks like when it's actually assembled. So if you see a bracket, I'm going to close up on it. If I have a different assembly, I'm going to close up on it, and I'll throw in a couple of tips while I'm doing this too. So again, this is something you'll learn how to run it, and I'll walk you through it. The first thing I want you to look at is that this is the unit actually set up, and this is about the way that I run it. So what I've got is I've got this set up on about an 8.5 degree pitch right now, and that's where you're going to run it. The header box is about where you're going to run it as well too. But the important note about this unit, and I've said this before, but if you can run this on a downhill slope, that's the important part. That's really what I want you to focus on. If you set it up on a downhill slope, and that way your header box and your low back legs are much lower, and otherwise if you set it up flat, these supporting legs right here for this header box are going to be all the way up to the maximum. So you always want to have it sort of on a downhill grade. Always look for a downhill grade when you set this up. That's number one. Okay, now I'm running two cameras here today, so I'm gonna be talking maybe to this one and running on the small one too, but I'm going to be running two different cameras and do some close-ups on you. And I'm actually out in the finishing and shipping area, so you're going to hear some noises in the background too, so you have to excuse me. So let's go ahead and let's talk about what the unit looks like when it comes to you. We build this unit, we assemble this unit. It's completely assembled here at the shop, and then we disassemble it. And we disassemble it totally so that it'll ship. That way we can ship it USPS. So we take all the brackets back off and everything. So I've got to walk you through real quick. So one thing I wanted to show you real quick is I wanted to show you the units. When it comes to you, it's going to basically be pretty bare. It stacks inside of each other. In other words, it nests. But it won't nest with the brackets on it. So if you're going to ship it somewhere, you'll have to take your leg brackets off. So while we're running through this, one of the things, all these trays are a little bit smaller than the next one. So this header box here is a little bit smaller than this tray, then this tray, this tray. So each one is about 1/4 of an inch smaller, and of course that's so it can slide inside of here and bolt, and so the whole unit can actually nest and ship. So you're going to have 3 separate units. They all have a certain spot. You got to figure that out. This is actually my unit. This is the unit that I've actually run in the field. So it's a little bit dirty and it's a little bit scruffed up, but we're getting ready to do one more test run of it outside, but I wanted to show you my unit, the way I have it set up. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 total. You get your header box, your main box, which is 8 inches. This main box here, of course, is 8 inches versus your smaller ones, which are 5 inches here. And they all nest inside of each other, and they have 3 bolts here. And that's how it attaches. If you want to number them, so you remember, sometimes you get a little confused, but they won't fit. Obviously they won't fit, but if you want to number them, you can number them on this one and that one. So let's start real quick with the header box attachment. The header box attachment, one thing that you'll notice is we've tried to keep it real simple. One of the beautiful things about this is all of your bolts that are on here are exactly the same. So when we ship this, we ship it all with exactly the same bolts. You don't have to worry about it. Now you do have wing nuts on your tray assembly versus bolts for your legs. So understand that the wing nuts go on the tray assembly, the bolts, the nuts go on the legs bracket over here. But we use the same screws throughout this whole unit to keep it simple, so we don't have to have 10 different screws and try and figure out where they go. There's only one set of screws that are going to be a little bit different, and they're going to be the screws that hold on your header tray, and I'll show you that. Excuse me, your grizzly bar, and I'll show you that. So right here, I want to show you this attachment. This is your header box to your main tray. And there is no washer in between here. We want this seam tight. We want this actually pulled in here. We don't want a washer in between here. We put a lock washer, and then we put a regular nut right in here, and you're going to attach it pretty tight. So tighten that one up. The next thing are your leg assemblies. Your leg assemblies, and I'm going to grab one of these. So here are your leg brackets. Your leg bracket obviously will go onto the box like this. Then, once that's on there, this bracket goes on top like this. So here's your finished leg assembly bracket. There is a washer on the outside here of your, so it goes a bolt. There's no washer in between right now on this one. And that's how it attaches. And these are your leg assemblies. And it has a little L bracket. And you'll want to seat that L bracket right up against the bottom of the tray. Of course, these are all pre-drilled. You just put them in. Now, I'm going to address one thing that's a little tip on these things. These legs, they slide up and down, but they don't slide up and down that loosely. So you have an option. I'm going to show you the option. It makes it a little bit easier, especially if you just have like 2 people with you. You'll notice that instead of not having a washer, see if I can get this to focus here. I've put a washer in between the bracket and what I'll call the swivel bracket. And when I do that, it creates a lot of space in here. And what ends up happening is now your legs just fall right out when you loosen this up. I would probably recommend putting that in there. I found that it's a lot easier when you do this. So instead of just having a bracket washer on the outside, put a washer in between these two. There really isn't a lot of stress on this, so it's not a problem of making sure that these seat up together. But it just really makes these legs move up and down real easy. They fall out. Especially up on this attachment up here. This is the one piece on your header box that you'll be moving up and down a lot, so you might want to make sure you do that up here because it makes the movement of the header box easy. So you've got a leg bracket over here, leg bracket, and a leg bracket. You'll put all your leg brackets on. The important thing when you do this is, and I can't stress this enough, one thing you want to do is you want to set this up dry run at your house before you take it to the field. And the reason being is if you look at the leg angles, it doesn't make sense in your mind sometimes how these leg angles work. So you want to set up the brackets and the leg angles to make sure that they're all set up. So you can see here, all my legs are set up a certain way so that they look like they're straight up and down, but they're not. They're actually tilted to make that sluice easier to go up and down. Same thing on my header box. You would think that this leg maybe needs to go a certain way, but this is the right way to set it. You set it so that while you're running, this is about the right angle for the box, so the leg is just past vertical, okay? That's really what you want. You want it just kicked out just a little bit. You don't want it way out here. This is actually maybe even a little bit too far. You might want to push it in a little bit, but that's the right setting for it. When you set this up, you're going to want to set this box down low. I like to keep that header box about 12 inches away from the ground, maybe 18. I've got it too far right now. So I've got it really too far from the ground. I just set it up just to show it. Get that close, and then that'll lower your whole sluice. And if you're running downhill, you'll see what I mean when you set it up downhill. It runs completely different. This is a wooden safety attachment. We were going to make it out of metal, but actually we like the wood because it's softer. And so if you set your header box down, it rests on this versus metal. Also, what this does is if by some chance, we've never even had this come close to having too much stress on it, but if by some chance someone didn't tighten one of these down, this box were to come crashing down, this right here, this piece of wood would actually stop it. If someone had their hand in here, that's a real dangerous spot because you've got material and water. So if it were to come down, this is just a safety piece. And I recommend you keep it in there all the time when you run. Now let's talk about attaching the grizzly. Our grizzlies, let me get one for you. The grizzly system on this thing is really cool because it's 100% aluminum, and the way that we had it done, we actually went through several different phases on this, but this is the final product. It's really rigid, really stiff, really well built, but it goes on like this. So it's actually kind of upside down where it attaches to the bottom of the box here. And when you attach it, you'll have a metal bar here, and this metal bar will actually have either 2 or 3 bolts that go through this header box system. So this metal bar right here holds this grizzly tray system on. Now, what I can do is I can loosen these. And I can slide this bar up and down. So I can adjust this bar if I wanted to adjust this. But at the same time, I can just put a little bit of pressure on this bar system. Don't over tighten this. And what you'll have that vibration that I constantly talk about. So you'll have these vibrate. If you tighten these all the way up super tight, they're not going to vibrate, which is fine if you're getting good clearance. I like to keep mine a little bit loose, and those bars will sit there and vibrate. Now, as the big rocks hit it, it really vibrates and it shakes all that stuff out. Then, of course, you have your 3 bolts that go through here, and that's what it looks like once it's installed. This is just a safety rest for this plastic PVC spray system. This is how the PVC spray system attaches. Now, one thing that's important and was important for me was that if you're running out in the field, you have to be able to, I want to be able to run to the hardware store, Lowe's or Home Depot, and buy a spare part. If you want to make another one of these, have a spare, you can also do that too. So you have a spare one of these out there. But this is basically, you got 45s and 90s and a T connector. It's all basic 2-inch stuff. You're going to have a male PVC plus a spacer piece, and that's critical. Don't get out into the field and miss, lose, or forget your spacer piece. Now, what are these screws for? These screws, this is glued, this is glued. These front units, these spray, you'll see these spray attachments. But these spray attachments are also glued in. This one has a washer on the front to reduce the main flow since it's coming straight in and force some of the flow out to the sides. But you can, if you want, you may want to make, let's say you want to make a minor adjustment. You could loosen this up, make a minor adjustment, and then re-drill it. These are drilled, they go in. But let's say I'm in a heavy vegetation area, and after a run, my spray nozzles are getting clogged with vegetation. You just simply unscrew this, take this out, and clean your system. So this is your spray header system. This comes all assembled and all ready. You just put it in. The only thing you have to do is attach your grizzly. Make sure your grizzly bars are not sticking out when you lift this up, because you may bend them. Always keep them up high. Ooh. Okay, this is your main header box leg right here. And you'll notice that you have your main clamp or main support right here, and then there's a secondary one, and this one is upside down. So if you'll see it, let me loosen it up. It's actually upside down. It's just one of these brackets that's upside down, and it's a secondary safety because there's a lot of weight. So what we do is once we get it set, we tighten this and we tighten this. So now we have a double clamp system. There's no way for this thing to fall down. And in the worst case scenario, by some miracle, it should happen, you've got a safety block in here too. So this goes on first, then you attach this in. This can stay on. You don't have to take that off, leave it on when you unpack it, and you put your leg system in. The nice thing also is we decided to go with all 24-inch legs except for this one, which is a 38. If you, by some reason, let's say you're running a setup, if you need a longer leg, we don't have them. We won't make them any longer than the 38. That's our cutoff. You can actually just go and buy some steel, long steel if you want, bend it yourself if you want a longer leg system, but that's as long as I want to do it. It's real strong, real sturdy, but I'm not going to risk sending out a longer leg. If you want a longer leg, you're going to have to make it yourself, unfortunately. But all the 24 legs except for this one Okay, so let me talk real quick about the mat and how this attaches. You'll see inside here that there are a couple holes up inside this header box. And what happens is your mat, let me grab it. Here's your mat, and your mat also has holes in it. This is my mat here. Has two holes up here. Then your miner's moss will also have holes in it. So your miner's moss goes on top of that. And then you have this angle piece right here. Now this fits through both of them and goes through the bottom of this box over here, and you attach it with wing nuts. Now you'll notice on this little bar it has a slight angle to the back of it. So this goes up against the back and it keeps water from shooting down inside the back here. And that's how it attaches. So you have your mat first, then your miner's moss, then your mat holder tray. You're ready to run. When you're putting your mat in, let me make a recommendation. And put this camera down for a minute. When you're putting your mat in, I'll make a recommendation for you. Keep your mat rolled up and put it inside the tray and get it up inside. Only unroll it a small amount. Attach it, because if you unroll the whole mat, if you need to slide it up, which it goes in there tight, you're going to have a whole bunch of resistance from the rest of your sluice, and it's hard to move that mat. So don't unroll it. Attach it, then unroll it. And when you unroll it, you'll turn it a little bit and it'll just fall right into place. Now, the next other tip about the mat is when you undo this, all you're going to do is you're going to loosen everything up, go to the end, put a tub underneath, pull your mat and just roll it up and let it fall into the tub. Then you wash it and rinse it in your tub, reverse roll it. And when I say reverse roll it, let me show you here. So here's your mat normally. This is a normal roll. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reverse roll it. I'm going to reverse roll it and you'll see what happens. When I reverse roll it, the grooves, this to this. And when you release those grooves, all that material will wash out real easy. If you try and wash it out like this, all your gold will be sitting in your mat. You will not be able to get it out. You put it in, you reverse roll it, you wash it in your tub, reverse roll it the other way, wash it, and then put it back in, you're ready to go. The whole cleanup process is 10 to 15 minutes. Take your mat out, rinse it, put it back in, start running again. Over time too, you can see I've used this mat a ton. Over time you may, let's say each season you may want to replace your tapes here. Also when you store your mat, I usually store mine rolled up, even though I probably should leave them a loose roll. The other thing is if you're running in a cold environment, keep your mat inside your truck, not on the truck bed. It is rubber. It's very strong rubber. It gets a little bit firm when it's below freezing, so you keep your mat inside your truck. Heat doesn't bother it, cold doesn't bother it. We've had a couple of these mats out back sitting in the sunlight at 100 degrees on pavement for almost a year now, and I could walk out there, grab them, and still run with them. You can't destroy them. Okay, so another tip that I'm going to throw in here real quick is I'm going to talk to you about the rivets. We've never had a rivet come undone in the field, and that's important. None of these rivets have ever come undone in the field. The only time the rivets come undone, you know, we were running 8 tons an hour through this stuff and dropping huge boulders. The only time that the rivet comes undone is when we put it on a UPS truck. You put it on a UPS truck and they like pop off magically. So I don't know what the deal is. I'm sure they're tossing these things, you know, playing baseball with the units, but you probably want to have a cheap rivet gun if you're going to go to a remote location. Let me talk real quick about a remote location. The only thing you'll need is what I do if I'm going to a remote location. If I'm going to Alaska or if I'm going to a claim in a remote location, I'm going to take 2 of whatever is cheap. But I am going to take a rivet gun. I'm going to take a rivet gun. I'm going to make up an extra hose assembly, spray bar assembly, just to have it, just in case. I'm going to have 2 lay flat hoses, I'm going to have 2 pumps. That's why I recommend the cheap pump. But if you're going to invest your time and drive somewhere and go 8 hours, set up, all this work, I've got double everything. So now I've got a backup for everything, every single thing in this unit that could possibly go wrong. It's a good little tip to have. Now, if you're just going out somewhere down the road and you're just going to run, big deal. If your hose breaks, come back tomorrow. But if you're somewhere in a remote location that takes a day and a half to get to, have 2 of everything. Talking about the pump real quick. Now, of course, I recommend the Champion pump that's on the website. I don't have it here with me today. It's actually in my truck. But that Champion pump is perfectly paired for this. It's 250 bucks. It comes with a whole bunch of accessories. It runs at 9400 GPH. That's the pump to use. If you want to get a different pump, that's fine, but we've paired that pump up to this and it runs perfect. The other thing is it comes with a couple accessories. The pump actually comes with a lay flat hose. It comes with a lay flat hose. It comes with an intake. it comes with accessories on it. And it comes with this green hose. Now, this green hose, use it in the garden. Throw it away if you want. I don't like it, it's just too firm. I like to use, this is old, but I like to use regular 2-inch dredge hose for my intakes. It's a lot more flexible and you can actually work with it. I've gotten to the point I never use that green hose. It's just way too hard and not flexible. But the pump comes with all these accessories. Now I want to show you one. Since we do use a spray system in this, I'm going to show you one little trick. And that one little trick is, this is woven wire mesh, okay? I'm going to bring it up close to the camera here so you can see it. So this is woven wire mesh. And what I've done is I've just taken a 24 by 24 piece and I've folded it over and I've used rivets and rivets with back washers. You can attach it. And I've just created this little sort of nest, sort of cage here. I take my strainer and I stick this inside. So I'll stick that inside and imagine the hose in here. And I'll throw a rock down in here and I'll throw a rock up in here, throw this out. But what this does is this keeps all your vegetation. If something gets through here, this is 1/8 of an inch mesh. It's galvanized steel. Don't waste the money on stainless. This is just galvanized steel wire. If something gets through here, it's not going to clog those nozzles. But this is a great little tip. And especially, some people like to run high pressure pumps, and they run high pressure pumps, they get clogged easy. But this is a great little cheap thing. This little screen will probably cost you about 10 bucks to make, but well worth it, well worth it. Especially after a flood. I will tell you, the last time we ran this, we had a real heavy rain and a flood, and we had leaves constantly going by, and guess what? This thing was getting constantly, and I forgot this screen, and it was a nightmare. If I had had this, you know, every 10 minutes we were having to go clean leaves off this thing. If I had had this, there would have been nothing. I wouldn't have to worry about it. So make you one of these or 2 of these, keep them around, they're cheap. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm setting up this in the field. I'm going to start again. Where do you start the back end of this unit? You start it at about 12 inches. Get it low to the ground. Then you go ahead and set it up. Get it where you think it should be. Put your mat inside of it. And now you're going to go to your leveling and pitch adjustments. Now this is a level. It's hard to find these, believe it or not, but a level with a metal strip on it. This is a digital angle indicator. It costs about 30 bucks. I really recommend you get one of them. But I just tape mine on here even though it's magnetic. And what I do is I can just push this on and it'll tell me, it shows me what degrees. So now I can put this on my sluice, and what'll happen is I can read, I want to be somewhere around an 8-degree pitch. Sometimes I run it a little bit steeper, but around 8 degrees seems to be the best run. And all I do is I put it onto the sluice and I look at it and I check it and check it. Now you will have variances, and that's important. This will be a little bit different. So you go through and you get this thing adjusted all the way through, get it running about 8 degrees. Now you're all set. Now the next step, once you get your pitch right, is to go in and level your trays. And what I do is I use my leveler at each one of the legs. It's just easier that way. So I come up, I'll set my leveler down. Let me grab the other camera here. So I'll set my leveler down and I'll check it for level. So I want this tray level. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it up and I'm going to check this tray for level. Then I'm going to come up and I'm going to put it up here and I'll check that tray for level. I even go up, and what I do sometimes is I'll even put it up here. I'll put it up here and check for level up on my box. So now I know that I'm all level. I know I've got my right pitch. Once I've got it set up, that's it. I'm ready to run for the whole day. When you go inside this thing, after you do this and once you get it started running, you can actually visually inspect and see if you're level or if there's some type of flow variance that might be throwing, let's say on this lower tray, a little bit water to one side than the other, and you can just adjust it. Once I get mine adjusted, I'm ready to go. If you're going to use this system in a commercial operation, I strongly recommend that you get a piece of rubber or a piece of wood and you put these legs up on a piece of rubber or wood. You will get some water splashing around, and that just keeps the erosion factor down. But if you put rubber between the sand and whatever, especially if you're on sandy beach, these legs, if you get water in there a whole lot, they'll start to, after hour, erode down. You put a piece of rubber under it, even if it's just a little square, it won't erode. So that's a good little trick too, either a piece of wood or maybe just a piece of rubber. I use just rubber matting. Okay, so you're going to have a lay flat hose, and I'm just going to use this one. You're going to have a lay flat hose, and the lay flat hose is going to have connectors on it. This will go to your pump. The lay flat hose goes to your pump, and instead of attaching it to your box, the system's going to come with, which I don't have with me right now, it's going to come with a clear hose attachment that's about 6 feet long. You attach the clear hose to the back of the box and let that clear hose come out, and then attach the lay flat to the clear hose. The one thing you do not want in your system while it's running is you do not want a single kink in your lay flat. Understand that? Let me make that point again. You don't want a single kink in your lay flat hose. So if you need to move your pump to get that out, that's fine. But that 6 foot hose section allows you to move that lay flat hose back and forth so that there's no kinks inside of it. That's so important. You don't want to reduce that flow at all. You want 100% of the flow. Start your engine, put it on full throttle, let it run. No kinks, you're ready to run. Set the system up at about an 8 degree, maybe 8.5, and you're done. So you're matching what we've done in our testing at that point.
Hey guys, it's Doc, and this is gonna be part of our video owner's manual. So I wanted to sort of walk through. I stopped everyone. We're all running around. We're setting up the equipment. I wanted to stop them, and I wanted to show what we're doing is now in Georgia we have to run the water that comes off your sluice has to hit the stream, otherwise it's considered bank erosion. So when we go, what I do is I look for an area that has a downward slope. Okay. So I'm looking for this downward slope, and I'm going to set up my very last tray where I want my water to exit. Then I'm going to back it up from there. Okay, so that's what we're doing right here. So I'm going to put my very last tray down over here, and then I'm going to back it up. Next thing I'll do is once I figure that out, then I got to figure out my pump situation. How far away am I going to have my pump? So we'll set up the hoses typically next, and we'll set the hoses to see where the pump goes. So you got to figure out, you'll eventually get into a groove with this thing. Then we attach all these trays. Then once we attach the trays, then we'll put the legs on. So that's sort of the system that we do. We set this thing up, we attach all the trays, then we'll put 2 legs on, lift the whole unit, put 2 more legs on, and then put the middle legs in. When we set this up, I want to warn you again, have this back end low to the ground. Maybe only 12 to 18 inches off the ground. That's really where you want it to be. Otherwise, your header box legs aren't going to be able to extend up enough. So you want to keep that low to the ground, even though sometimes it interferes with the waste coming off the back. That's why I make that little kicker tray on the back of it. The next thing I'm going to do is, because we use a pattern spray bar in this, in other words, we actually have holes in the end of our spray prongs. I like to keep as much vegetation out as possible, and I'm going to show you what I use. This is a real simple piece. You can go to McMaster Car and get this, but this is a piece of galvanized woven wire mesh. The size of it, it's below 1/8 of an inch, so I forget the number. It's like an 8 by 8, but it's just galvanized. And what I did was I folded over the edges on this, and then I used rivets. I just used a little awl and made holes and made rivets. But when you do your rivets, they make a backwasher for your rivet. Normal rivets, we found, just pull out, so I use rivets with backwashers on this to keep it together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my intake from the stream, and I'm going to put that intake, I'm going to put a rock inside here, then put my intake, then a couple more rocks. Then I'm going to throw this into the creek. What that does is the leaves and debris and everything else cannot get inside this. So now I have it screening real fine, and I never have to worry about pulling grass out of my spray bars. And that's the only thing you got to worry about, is once in a while you might have to clean them. So that's what we're doing on our setup. I wanted to stop it real quick. I'll come back in and I'll show a little bit more of it once I start leveling and doing that kind of stuff. Alright, so now we're going to the next stage where they're getting ready to put legs in. I'm going to show you real quick. All the legs are 24s except for the header box legs, which run about 38 inches. So here's what we do is we have the unit assembled. The first thing they're going to do is they're going to put this end on. They'll put the legs on. Then they'll come lift the whole unit up, put these back legs on. Then they'll put the middle legs on. Now here's the trick. Set these legs to the right distance. Leave these middle legs loose, and then set your pitch on there, because otherwise you won't. These middle legs you kind of want to leave loose the whole time. We're actually going to run. Hey Joe, move aside a sec. We're actually going to run a little insurance testing box on the end of it. This is a 24 piece of expanded metal and vortex that I'm going to run at a real high velocity to see if by any chance I'm losing gold below 100. That's what I want to check and see. So again, I always like to test. I test almost all the time on it. Plus we have this new insertion box, that new big riffle. But before, I did want to mention this real quick. This little piece right here has caused a lot of debate and a lot of decision making, and I'll tell you why. Initially I was going to do a quick connect here, but the problem with a quick connect is not everyone has it. If you lose it, if it breaks, how are you going to replace it in the field? So what we're doing is we're doing a standard piece of PVC, female to female. So your hose will come in with a male into that female. And the reason why I'm doing that is, in your mind you can see that, and if you need to change it for your hose, let's say, well, I need a male, or I'm using a 3-inch pump, whatever it is, I don't want to put a specialty piece on the end of that box that limits the operator. Plus, God forbid something happens, it breaks, how are you going to replace it? Again, this is the philosophy of using things that you can go to the hardware store and get back up and running within 24 hours. So I have modified mine to have a quick connect, but it's going to come in with a standard piece of PVC there. That's a female. So that means you're going to have a male hose end on it. And we are going to be shipping them with this 2-inch dredge hose with a male to male. So you just need to, an important thing is check your hose setups. Make sure, always do a dry run at home. But you can see I've got my pump over here. I've got it with that screen in the water I'm talking about. Lay flat hose runs up, comes into the flex hose. We'll attach this to the back and we're all set to run. Alright, so here's what I'm talking about. So now we've got the first 2 legs in. Hey guys, go ahead and pick up the unit and put your other legs in. So now they're going to pick up this unit as a whole, and they're going to put their other 2 legs into it. And they're going to set it right about there. That's about a good height right there. So they're just going to go ahead and set it. Now you can see how much, because I'm setting it on a downhill slope, I've already got a real strong natural pitch. So that means I can lower this box down and still have a 7, 8, or 9 degree pitch in here. That's why you always want to try and find a downhill slope. Then they're going to insert the middle legs and go from there. Okay, so now what they're going to do is, now they're going to put the legs on the header box. We got this all set up. They got the safety wood block in there, so go ahead and lift up the header box, slide the legs in. Don't worry about the safety brackets until you get it set up. Now there have safety brackets, double safety brackets, but all we really want to do is we want to get the header box set up on a pretty steep pitch here. So that's about right. That's my guesstimate. That's about where I'm going to guesstimate it. Then I'm going to go in with my angle gauges and do my adjustments. Okay, so here's the trick on the mat. Hold up. The trick on the mat is not to unroll it. The trick on the mat, because it'll make it hard to actually move the mat up. The trick is leave it rolled and move it up into the box. So go ahead and do that. So he's going to lift the mat up. But you don't want all this tension. Don't unroll your whole mat and then try and move it up, because it fits in there real tight. You need to get it all the way up to that top, and you need to make sure that your holes are aligned. So he's going to check and make sure that those holes are aligned back up in here. And once he sees that those holes are aligned, then he's good to go. Now the next thing that happens is he's going to take his moss. Let me have that bar over here. So now you've got the miner's moss that goes on top, and then you've got that lockdown bar. The lockdown bar goes into the back and you secure it in. There's 2 wing nuts under here, and that's how you secure your mat and you're ready to go. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure that your mat, all of your sides are pushed down and your side tape is upright. So we're going to push this down. And I'm going to do all this before I level this thing out. All right, so here's this new piece that I'm talking about. This is this new sort of a complicated reverse riffle. It goes in, and it goes in this way, and the water will come off of this header box, hit here, be forced to actually reverse direction and come back over. We've also attached a dampener in here, just a flap, settling flap, whatever you want to call it. But it goes inside here, and today I'm really trying to figure out how high up I can put this into my box. So I've got 2 holes in here. So basically it just has wing nuts on it, and you attach it into the hole up at the front. Alright, so this riffle goes in there like that. And it just barely fits in there. We're going to put it on the top one. So there's 2 holes there right now because I'm experimenting. So put it in the upper hole. You put it through the hole and you tighten it down. And when you do this, you're going to push it down tight and make sure it seats. And once you push it down tight, real tight, then you're going to lock in your bolt. Don't push that bar though. Push here. You ready? You got it?
Yeah.
Okay. You all set? Alright, so that's what it looks like inside here, and I don't know if I'll be able to get a picture of it or not, but I don't know if you'll be able to see it or not, but that's that reverse riffle right in there. And the water sheets and hits the back of this, comes down, hits here, and has to reverse and turn over it. This is the question that I have that we're trying to determine right now. And this is why I'm sort of pausing, because will 98% of the water fall in this hole, or will I have a bunch of water hit here? If I have a small amount of water hit here, I'm fine with it. I mean, it's going down the big sluice. It'll eventually, if there's gold on top of here, I mean, it's going to get caught. The main thing is what happens in this action. So we'll be running it and testing it. Okay, so when you're going to set this up, you're going to determine your angle. A lot of people use this one, but I'll tell you right now, it's hard to see that. It's hard to tell when you're at a 7 or an 8 or a 7.5. I don't use these. I use a digital one, and a digital one will give me an exact reading. So these are cheaper, but this is better. And I take mine, I just put mine on top of an actual level so that I can go ahead and use this both ways too. But I'm going to go in and I'm going to check my angle on this box. I'm just going to turn it on. I've already got it zeroed. Now I'm just going to rest it right on this, on one tray. And I'm at a 6.5 here. Then I come up and I just catch this lip. I'm at an 8.2 here. So you'll see that this will vary, so I need to go through here and get this. And I'm going to run it at about an 8 degree today. An 8 degree pitch all the way through. Then the last thing I'll do is I'll go and again, I'll do this side to side level. Alright, so I'm going to show you this new, I call it a reverse vortex. Because our unit does something differently, this is what I wanted to do, and it took me weeks to do this, design this, and incorporate it into one piece. So, our water, unlike most high bankers, doesn't fall down. It actually comes off in a sheet. It comes off almost in a solid sheet because it's high energy, and it all hits right in the back of this box. And it turns real quickly, and just zings across real quick. So I wanted to stop it and create sort of this boiling Deadpool quasi-fluid bed sort of action in here. So David, go ahead and lift that flap up. So you can see what happens inside there. All the water is hitting that big riffle that we put in, and it's having to change direction. And it's creating this real deep pool in here that will create sort of a fluid bed. It has to stop direction, it has to turn, so it comes down here, hits, goes in here, has to stop, turn, come back around and go over. So it's a pretty cool action. And now I put this little flap on it just because of this. And go ahead and drop it, David. And what it does is it settles down that water nice and smooth. We'll see how she runs, but I've got, again, you'll see this full, this is a long sluice. I may want to pitch up my angle just a bit on this, but I've got my insurance box down here. This is my testing box. This is just something we built, it's just made out of metal. It's 24 long, has vortex mat and expanded metal in it. I want to see if there's any super fines that are getting out of here. Plus, this will also check my loss rate. So there she is, set up and running. And I'll adjust this. And I can tell, if you look, David, step back that one. But I can tell I've got a different flow over here than I do over here. So what I'm going to do is, in other words, I've got more water coming over this first ramp than I do over here because it looks different. I don't know if you can see that. This looks different than this. So I'm going to go through here, and even though I've leveled it, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to readjust this. I want this sluice to look all the same all the way through on both sides. Alright, so here we are running the new configuration. We've got that new reverse vortex inside of it. Again, this is my little kicker tray. Chris is down here manning that. But I wanted to show you that all that water is sheeting inside there. So you can see it goes in a sheet. And then it goes under there and hits that reverse vortex. It comes over across here. So she's running pretty good. Now, one of the tricks with this grate is if you want to loosen it up, it'll vibrate a little bit more. I've got mine tight, so it's not vibrating, but you can loosen that bar and the prongs will vibrate a little bit. You don't want to loosen it too much because then they'll start to drop. All right, so we did a shutdown. How much do you think we ran? Because I left.
Good. 2.5, 3.
2.5, 3 ton. So here we are with this new, this is the new setup. So here's that little settling flap. I'm gonna move it. I made 2 holes. I'm gonna move this down 1/2 inch because it was hitting a little bit here. But I want you to see that pool. There's a pool of water that's slowly draining now. It was about 3 inches deep in there. Go ahead and lift that flap up, David. And then you can see that there's a nugget. I don't know if you can see it or not. There's a nugget sitting right there. A nugget for Georgia, at least. And then you can see what happens in here after this riffle. This creates this crazy little reverse ramp. Comes up, but there's water. This is a pool of water back in here, and there's material. If I can grab it. Right behind that, there's material sitting back there. So there's material sitting behind this riffle. And what we're going to do is we're going to gently release this, undo that screw a little bit, and then just sort of just shake it, see if you can get it to come up a little bit. I'm just going to let that water just barely just drain out of there. So now that water is draining out of there, and you can see that behind this thing, behind that riffle, there's material back there. So that's behind the riffle, and that's what I'm talking about. Those heavies, if you get big chunks of gold, they're not going to go over that riffle. They're going to sit right there. Matter of fact, if you look, what's funny is, right in here, I'm going to try and get this on camera. It's going to be tough. But there's a bunch of pyrite. There's a bunch of pyrite sitting in there. And I don't know if you can see it or not. I'm trying to get it to focus. But if I see big chunks of pyrite sitting right there, I know that there's probably some nuggets in there too. That's behind that reverse ramp riffle. And if I see that pyrite that doesn't want to come up over this, that's perfect. So that's looking really good. So that what happens is that water goes in, it hits the back of the sluice, comes down quick and has to stop, reverse direction and come over that big riffle ramp. And what's happening is anything that's real heavy specific density wise is being held there. And we're seeing larger rocks come over it. So it's not a mass situation. It definitely is specific density defined in there. And when I see those big chunks of iron pyrite, I know it's working perfect. Okay guys, so we shut it down and I'm going to show you them actually taking the mat out of here, rolling it and reverse rolling it and rinsing it. We're kind of doing this slow because what I did was, here's that insurance section with that expanded metal and vortex, okay? So I cleaned that out separately and I've panned it down, and while I'm finding extremely fine black sand, I have yet to see any gold in here whatsoever. So the only reason we're going to put it back on, to be honest, is so that our water falls into the creek. But I'm looking through here and I don't even see a 100. Now, I'll go home and I'll put it under the magnifying, under the microscope, and I'll see if there's any 200s. But as of right now, I don't even see one piece of gold in here. So either I don't have any gold in my sluice, or I'm running above a 99%. So I'm assuming that above a 99% is correct. But I don't even see any gold in here. I'm gonna have Chris check it too, just to make sure. But that's a great sign. And I was running that sluice a little bit slower than normal, so I was concerned that I might have some losses, but I'm not seeing anything whatsoever. Alright, so Chris is down here and he's got a couple, I panned some of this down, so he's got some of the cons from this insurance, and I'm gonna have him check it. I don't see anything. I don't even see 100s yet. I see a bunch of pyrite, see some weird pyrite flecks in there, iron pyrites, but I don't see any gold, so he'll check it and see if he sees anything. Alright, so here we are at the sluice, and here's a little trick. Hold up, Rick. Rick loves to bang the hell out of things, so what he'll do is he'll take that, this is the miner's moss, or the hog moss that we've got, and he'll bang the heck out of it in here, and he'll clean it out. It's real easy to clean compared to most miner's mosses, the hog moss is. But he took it off out of here, off this top. And then what we do is we put a big tub down here, and we lift this side of the mat. Okay, so this side of the mat we lift up slightly, and when we do that, the water gently drains down this side. And what happens, this is what we call the concrete phase. If you can see, all this stuff turns, it settles and gets kind of hard in here. So what it does is you can roll it without worrying about it washing out. And that's what I like to do. I just let it concrete for a few minutes. You can see, I mean, there's rubies, there's all this. Look at the iron pyrite back in here. I'm dying to see that one little nugget up there again, but we'll find out. But that's how we do it. And then we'll just pull this mat down, we'll roll it up and put it in there, and I'll show you that in a sec. All they're going to do is they're going to roll this mat, now give it a little pull. A little pull, and as soon as you do that, the mat will release up here. And then they're just going to roll it and pull it again. The mat slides down, and he'll just keep pulling and rolling, just like that. And then what he's going to do, Rick, get the thing down there so he can just get it into it. Then they're going to have a tub down here. Just let it go right into the tub. Just let it go in there, and there you go.
And we can do that.
Then they're going to grab a bucket of water. They're going to put this up there. Just pour it in from up here. Then they're just going to dump water in the top. They're going to rinse out the sluice, run it all down, catch the material, and now that's clean and ready for another run. So now what they're going to do is they're going to fill this up with water. And when they fill it up with water, he's going to reverse roll it. We're using my cone bucket, the pink cone bucket, to fill it with water. That's fine, because let me cone you. All right, so leave it there so he can see him reverse rolling. And really all he's going to do is he's just going to reverse roll it and rinse it. So as he reverse rolls this, these grooves open up. So he's just going to reverse roll the whole mat, rinse it up and down, reverse roll it the other way, rinse it up and down. If there's anything in there, they can go back and clean it out again. So now what he's going to do is he's just going to go, he's going to dip it and pull it straight up to one side. Dip it straight up to one side. And then he's going to go and he's going to do it the other way. Dip it and go the other way. And just let the water drain out. All right, now stop. Now what he's going to do is he's going to reverse roll the other way. So now he's going to go on this other end, which will be a lot tighter. He's going to reverse roll it, because I can still see, you know, heavies and garnets in there. And he's going to reverse roll it this way and do the same thing. So the mat will be clean in probably about 5 minutes, and we're done. We got all of our cons, which will be about 1.5 gallons, 1 gallon in here. And we're done. Time to rerun again. All right, so I had Chris look through there. Did you see any gold in there in the losses?
None.
None. So, I mean, I didn't see anything either. So what we've had is we had this on the end, this extra little vortex and expanded metal piece on the end of this. We had a ton of black sand in it. It was exchanging out really nice. And I have yet to see one piece of gold. I mean, not even a 100. Did you even see a 100 in there?
None.
I didn't see anything in there.
I double checked it.
Yeah, I don't. But I'm going to take it home. I imagine I'll take there's a little bit more cons in the bucket from that. I'm going to put it under a microscope, and I'm hoping to see maybe some 200s in there or something. I want to see something in my losses in that tailing thing, so we'll see. Hey guys, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to pan this down, but I want to show you why I'm having so much trouble. I've got tons of pyrite in here, and I've got rubies, and I've got topaz, and it's just amazing. But I want you to see this if I can get it on. Kind of hard for me to see where I'm going here, so. But you can see that's a topaz, garnet, ruby, big chunks of pyrite. There's a ruby right here. Topaz all through here, and there's just all this huge amount of pyrite. This stuff is just everywhere. I mean, this pan is just loaded with it. I can't even get really the pan down in this pan. I really can't even get down to some of the fine gold because it's all being held up there. I'll have to run it and process it, but I'm going to try and get it for you. All right, but here's what I'm talking about again so you can see it. I mean, it's almost impossible to even pan down to gold. This is all rubies, pyrite. I mean, these things are just, this whole pan is just full of this stuff. I mean, it's just crazy. That's just all, that one handful right there is all rubies, topazes, and iron pyrite. And then as soon as I start to pan it down, look what happens. And then look at that pyrite in there. I mean, it's just impossible. It's impossible to even get it to move right now. I'm just having to go in and scrape it out. And that's just insane. So anyways, we did that one cleanup. I'm gonna take you over here and show you this pan. 3 tons, maybe. They ran 3 tons real quick. They ran almost that whole pile. But I wanted to show you. This is about 2 handfuls out of those cons. So here's what I'm looking at on those cons. And I'm talking super fine, mostly super fines, a lot of 50s, a lot of 100s. So that's what I'm finding in here. I'll probably float a bunch of this away, but I mean, this is the kind of stuff, I mean, that's the kind of stuff we're having to find. And here's what we're battling. This is the amazing point. Look at the pyrite, look at the garnets, look at all that in here. And I'm battling this, but yet I'm catching that. And that's the amazing point I want to say. Now, so there we start to get into mass versus specific density. I'm catching that super fine gold that's staying in my sluice, but so are the larger pyrite chunks, which have a lower specific density but a higher mass. So it's that crazy kind of line that you have to cross. But anyways, we checked that insurance box with that vortex and that expanded metal on the end of it, 24 inches long, and we cannot find one single piece of gold visually now. So that's probably 100, maybe 150. Chris and I both checked it. I've had 0 losses. My guess is I've probably got 1,000 pieces of gold in here that are real tiny. So it's mainly in the, most of the gold is in the, probably the 30 to the 150 range was what I'm seeing. So we're out here running, we're running a 5-gallon bucket, filled 2/3 of the way. It takes about 6-7 seconds to dump it in, run it through. There are some nuggets in here, and once I work these cons down, there's some little nuggets, and I'll show you those too, but right now we want to get back up running.